Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. It is June 4th. I had to think about that for a moment. It's June 4th, 2024. And I am here with Pia and Cullen, and we're here to talk to you all about these Ascension energies that we are integrating and what's up on planet Earth here from our perspective. So welcome, Pia and Cullen.
Hi.
Thank you. Hi.
Yes. How is your world? How is things unfolding in your life?
Very quickly.
Right? Yeah.
Everything's accelerating.
We're finding that we've talked to you about this before on a number of occasions where lots of people around the world are talking about they just can't achieve everything they used to be able to achieve in one day, or the days just drag on and they keep looking at the clock and it doesn't move and they can't quite figure out what is going on. And I would say both of those examples are ramping up. Sometimes P and I will feel like one day equals a week or a month, and we'll do something early in the morning. We get up really early. We get up between 4 and 5 every morning. And sometimes we get a huge amount of things accomplished that very early time during the day. And sometimes we look at each other and say, well, did we accomplish anything? Did anything happen? So we're in that, what Larkma, our Pleiadian friends, call liquid time, where sometimes we don't even know where we are. I mean, we're thinking, okay, we're in 3D, but it seems like we're somewhere else. So I would say that our lives and lots of people we talk to around the world have completely changed in the sense of timing.
That's how I feel. Yeah. Go ahead, Pia.
In regard to Cullen saying we know we're in 3D, but it's not really what we're accustomed to, I would say there is a definite quickening of the awareness of multidimensionality. And sometimes the regular world just doesn't look the same, feel the same, smell the same. It is not the same. So we have to distinguish in this energy, in this moment, what's being asked. And we're having to do it every day, all the time.
Yeah, it takes a whole new, like I was thinking about this myself, and this is something I wanted to bring up on today's call. So I'm glad that you touched on it right away. And that is the liquid time. I feel like, the liquid time, the collapsing of time, because everything just feels like, it just feels like you cannot keep track over, like you said, did we get anything accomplished today? That type of energy. It just feels like everything is all together. That's probably a good word for it. It feels like it's all together. It feels like a never ending now. A never ending now. That's what it feels like. It just feels like it's all now, right? And it's never ending, and it's all now, and it just feels like it's all together.
I think, Kornelia, I think that's a great way of explaining this. We've been trained, not just in our own lives, but generationally, that there's an absolute past and there's an absolute future. And we've spent a lot of our lives, all of us humans here on this planet, of either spending time in the past, which probably isn't the greatest idea, or looking to the future, hoping things will either be better or different. And I think what we're talking about right now, and exactly what you just explained, I think we're in the present time, and either our minds or our bodies don't really know how to cope with this, because it's not our usual way of experiencing time, or those moments of, oh, we should be doing this now, or we already did that, so let's move on to the next thing. I think we're actually getting to the point where we're in the present moment more and more and more.
Mhm.
And it's not only altering, it's also a little, gosh, how would I say this? It's a little frustrating on the one hand, and it's kind of exciting on the other hand. So it puts us in this space of, okay, we think we're still here in 3D for the most part. However, as I said earlier, maybe we're not really just here in 3D. So it's a really interesting time. And I don't think humanity has ever experienced this before. I think we're the first group of humans who are going through this experience. Our parents didn't do it. Our grandparents didn't do it. I think we're the pioneers, or the new humans that are actually experiencing something we've never understood, or never had a true grasp of a different kind of reality.
Yeah, it almost like the way it makes me feel with this energy that we're in, with this navigation of what we are experiencing, is that, the clock may read 12 o'clock, the clock may read 10 o'clock, whatever it is, but that part doesn't even matter. It's like, the clock doesn't matter. It's very strange to say this, because we know that we need to show up to go at a certain time. We have to be at a certain place at a certain time. But one of the things that's been helping me, I guess, experience this, which is also very strange, is, how do I want to spend this day? How do I want to spend this day? Really, that's, in the morning, how do I want to spend this day? And how do I want to live this day? How do I want to spend this day? So that's one of my questions that I ask myself. And, that seems to be helping a little bit, because it keeps reminding me of doing the day, spending the day with what I value, with what's important to me. Of course, we have to get the things done that we, need to get done. Um, but, it's just always bringing it back to, how do you want to express yourself? How do you want to live this day if time doesn't exist in that way? You know what I mean?
I do. We do. LARCMA has been talking to the public, both in live calls and in YouTubes that we've been producing, about the idea that it's really time that we realize that we're truly human beings, not human doings. And it's such a different way of looking at who we are and how we experience our lives, just as you just suggested. And they're trying to help humanity realize that we've been just a little bit too busy.
They did that on their live call on Sunday. They spent a great deal of time reminding us that we're human beings, not human doings. And I find it interesting that Pleiadian wisdom and guidance is coming through right now, aligned with the change of what's happening with the Venus energies. Because today, Venus and her dance in the sky moves from one particular star point of Leo into a star point of Gemini, which is all about communication. And at the same time, Venus changes phases and moves into the phase of transmutation. And when we're talking about human doings versus human beings, That's a transmutation that we really need to make. We really need to focus on. We don't have to do. We need to practice more of the just be, just being. And when we do that, Cullen and I are finding already the communication skills we have with others are off the charts. I mean, between the two of us, we communicate telepathically and all the time. But with other people, we're now noticing those who are passing on come through the veil and they talk to us or show up. We have conversations with people we haven't thought about in years because we know that there's some kind of communication of energy going on. So we're having a lot of that experience. So it's a very transformative time. And Venus being in this particular point of alignment right now, while the Pleiadians, who really value Venus, are encouraging us to be human beings, it's really important.
Yeah, this whole cycle right now, the Venus cycle that we're in, I have Venus in my chart because I'm a Libra. Everybody has Venus in their chart, right? Does everybody have Venus in their chart?
Everybody has Venus in their chart, but I'm not talking about the natal position of Venus or the transits of Venus. I'm talking about specifically the dance Venus does in the sky, an astronomical event where she moves through points like a child drawing a star. She makes a 5-pointed star in the sky. Every 9.5 months, she moves from one point to another. And when that point changes, there's often a phase change at the same time. So she moves into a different energy. This happens between being a morning star and an evening star. So it brings in a dualistic perspective for us to work with here in duality. And the focus this time, what we're in and the Venus is bathing us in, is pay attention to transmutation. What do you need to change or transmute? Pay attention to communication. You don't have to be on your cell phones all the time or internet all the time. In fact, it doesn't have to be digital at all or vocal at all. You can communicate telepathically. Focus on just getting quiet and being, and your communication is enhanced.
Do you have a thought?
No, go ahead.
Well, there's a definite connection that we're noticing, not just between the two of us in our relationship, but we're hearing this from people all over the world, that intuition is becoming stronger and stronger. We're noticing this. Others are noticing this. But there's also another component of intuition, and that's synchronicity. And synchronicities are happening more and more, faster and faster. People are having these experiences where, people used to joke about, well, I was just thinking about so-and-so, and all of a sudden that person called on the phone. Or I was thinking about this person and I went to the corner store and there that person was right there showing up.
Yeah.
We're seeing that these synchronicities are getting more frequent. They're getting stronger. They're happening more often. And there's a definite connection between synchronicity, the experience of telepathy, and just having things happen in what we would call a flow, having things just show up exactly when they should show up, but maybe we don't quite understand what that timing is all about. However, it seems to be ramping up. It seems to be happening more and more and more. And I think this is part of the ascension process. People often ask the two of us and Larkma and other energies that we bring through, they say, well, when is ascension going to happen? And Larkma will constantly, usually with some laughter, say, it's not when, it's now. We are in this process. It is happening on a daily, momentary basis. And I think the things we're talking about right now are pure examples of this ascension that we're actually going through. And I think we're going to, as a species, make tremendous changes in the very, very near future, even though I can laughingly say there is no future, but the way we compartmentalize things, we can still use that term. I think we're going to be changing quite dramatically in the next 6 months, next year, next 18 months. I think we're going to be understanding and doing things that we never would have guessed that we would be able to accomplish.
This is exciting. What you're talking about is exciting. And, we are taking our physical bodies with us into these higher vibrational ways of living and being in the new earth that we've pioneered over all the decades, over all the lifetimes. And here we are. And we are, what is it? The ground crew in action. We're the ground crew, right? And we have to balance we have to have, speaking of Venus, right? Because you talked about Venus, and Venus represents our values. What do we value? What's important to us? And if in the old earth, I always like to say this to myself in this way, old earth, new earth, then that helps me realize a few things. But in the old earth, we used to be chasing after ambitious, going after what it is that we want based on our material needs and our, possessions and the things that we wanted to get, without allowing our heart or our values, like, really to come into full focus of, is that really what you want in a higher vibrational way of living and being? Do you value being time? Do you value rest? Do you value the feminine?
Well, Venus is all about bringing in the higher vibration qualities, the divine feminine. Venus is focused on things that we need to learn to appreciate and be. One is we need to be appreciative of beauty and look for beauty and create beauty in our surroundings. 2 is we need to be involved in love, and that's just not romantic love. That is unconditional love for everything on this planet and everybody. 3 is about nurturance. Do we nurture ourselves? Do we offer nurturance to others? Do we offer that feeling of, you're safe here, you can be yourself? And the last one is, we've got beauty, we've got love, we've got nurturance. And the last one, which is equally important, is justice. Venus is all about justice, saying yes when it's appropriate and no when it's appropriate, because your heart knows it's just. For people that want a little more information about the Venus star changes that are happening right now, there's a blog on my website that I just posted on piaorleane.com. Go into the blogs, and there's an explanation about this time of transmutation and communication that we're entering into and how we can work with it better.
Yes, good. I'm glad that you pointed that out, because that's what it is that we want to. Those are the tools that we want to use on how to work with the energies and how to navigate them, which is one of the reasons why we come here and have these conversations and share this information, so that, because again, we are practicing, we are integrating these energies just like, the rest of you, and we're practicing how to live based on the values that are important to us, the spiritual values, the higher vibrational energies, which is again going back to the timepiece of the liquid time, and how everything is, what did I call it earlier? Do you remember, Cullen?
Oh gosh, yes, it's in here, but I don't know if I can pull it up.
Yeah. I have to go. Isn't that something? This has been happening a lot.
Yes.
Yes, we're aware of that.
And let me just say, it's not dementia, it's not Alzheimer's, and it's not a senior moment. None of those things.
Well, Kornelia, what it is it's showing us that the meaning is not in the words. We don't have to have the exact word to express our meaning. We have to have an image of the essence of what we're trying to express and communicate it. And that's best done with the heart and telepathically, not with words. And for me being a writer, Cullen being a writer, for us to say that is a pretty amazing thing. But we're in a whole different arena of growth right now. We have to honor where we are and learn what the gifts are of this period we're living in.
Kornelia, you're absolutely right. It's not about dementia. It's not about losing our minds. What's actually happening is all of the things that we had crammed in our brains that we thought were super important to us, all the details, all the facts, all the things we've been trained to think we have to remember and be able to pick this thing out while we're speaking to someone or pick that idea out. What's happening is none of that is really important anymore. And I think what both of you are talking about is communicating in a different way. And the words truly aren't as important anymore. The meanings behind the words aren't that important anymore. And so we think we're forgetting things, but we're not forgetting. What we're doing is we're making room for what's more important. We're actually cleaning, I guess, spring cleaning our brains and getting rid of all the cobwebs, getting rid of all those boxes of stuff that's in the attic that we don't need anymore. We're throwing those out the attic window and letting the garbage guys come and pick it up. We don't need all that stuff that every kid from kindergarten through graduate school was told, you need to remember this. This is what's going to make you smart. This is what's going to make you get ahead in life. And I think none of that was ever true, but we did what we were told. And I think we're at the point now where when we think we can't remember what we wanted to say or what we wanted to go to the other room to pick up is truly not important anymore, because if we're living in the present, we're living in the present.
I think Cullen said something there that's really key for all of us to remember, or to at least consider. And that is that all those things we've been taught by our elders, our teachers, our religion, our governments, our medical facilities and practitioners, it doesn't matter where it's come from. If it's come from someone else we've considered to be hierarchically higher than we are, wiser than we are, better than we are, just because they said it does not mean, number one, that it's true, and does not mean, number two, that they're any better or wiser than we are. They're just accessing a bunch of facts, and facts change all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that any of us, we come to assume that what we've been taught and we've relied on all of our lives is the truth. I'm not sure any of us really have a clear picture of what the truth is until we get rid of all that stuff and go, well, maybe that's one way to look at it, but that doesn't mean it's the truth. And when we get there, then we're able to access what is true.
Yeah. And that is something we're certainly moving towards. It's amazing. I've mentioned this before talking with you on your shows. When I was a little kid, I was very, very definite in school about when a teacher would throw a fact out, and I knew that for me it wasn't true, and I would put my little hand up and go, excuse me, I don't believe you. I don't think that's the truth. And I spent a tremendous amount of time in the principal's office, and sometimes my parents had to come in with a conference with the teacher or the principal or both. And they would say, your son isn't disruptive, but he's kind of unusual. And we don't know why he says these things. And my parents looked at them on a number of occasions and said, well, maybe there are different ways of seeing things. Maybe what you're presenting isn't the only truth. And I was so fortunate that my parents backed me up, because I truly disagreed with most of what I was being told. And it was challenging for me, honestly, because I constantly realized immediately, well, that's not true for me. That just doesn't work in my world, in my reality. So I've been bucking the system since I was a little kid.
Yes, you had that rebellious energy right away there. The curiosity, the rebelliousness, that was right away there, challenging challenging those people that were basically the authority, or seemed to be the authority over you, and wanted to program you, right, with whatever they were teaching, and you were like, already no, or like, I don't believe you. That's pretty special.
Yeah,
That's pretty special.
well, it's interesting. Here's the last thing I'll say about it. The last thing I'll share. In I think 4th or 5th grade, I had a Canadian teacher. I don't know what she was doing in my community, teaching in public school, but anyway, her name was Miss Seltonrich, and she was a very proper school marm type person. This is way back in the early 50s. It was a long time ago. And she finally got to the point where she was tired of me saying, well, guess what? I don't believe this. And she just looked at me and she said, Mr. Smith, you're an ass. And I looked at her and I thought, whoa, you have no idea what you're beginning here. That was really inappropriate. And I really made a fuss over that lasted for months. And that's to the extent of how I was treated when I was simply being, as you said, curious. I was looking for a bigger picture. I was looking for something that really fit a different reality than what I was being shown.
Perhaps something you remembered and brought here that other people didn't have.
Maybe, I don't know, but it was certainly, it was a challenge, and it was humorous at the same time.
Yeah, you were in training already, to be who you were becoming in this world, and how you were already standing up to it, even though you didn't really know what it all was, but you were being yourself.
Exactly.
You were being yourself, and that's another thing, is that you wouldn't allow yourself to be taken over by authority, which is so interesting, isn't it? To not allow ourselves to be, because that's what you were saying a few minutes ago, Pia, is, do we give our power away to outside sources? Right? And that's a big, important piece for us, especially those of us that have been doing the spiritual work, our inner work, and we've been doing that work. And so it's really important that we stand solid in our self-actualization, self-realization, which I thought that would be also a good topic to discuss today. And that is, define the meaning of self-realization. What does it mean to be self-realized?
The first thing that comes to me is that, as Cullen was describing, you know who you are, while at the same time you're open to new things that can come to you to help create who you are becoming. So self-realization requires self-knowledge and openness to accept new ideas. That's the first thing that comes to me when you say that.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think in addition to that, I think self-realization is absolutely connected to consciousness. Mm-hmm. And if we don't self-control ourselves in the same ways that we've been taught from the outside to be controlled, when we are curious, when we are suspicious of what we're being told, and we realize that maybe we have a slightly different angle of seeing the world or the universe, I think the part about self-realization is being true to that, being true to ourselves, not wavering, not being coerced by peer pressure or authority pressure to be someone other than who we are. Mm-hmm. And I think that probably is the crux of the best way we could answer your question. It's amazing. Consciousness is available to everybody. And yet the amount of people on this planet who consciously look around and think about, well, what's really happening? What am I seeing? What am I feeling? What's going on in my environment? And most people are so busy with those pursuits that both of you explained earlier about we have to get ahead in the world. We have to become perfect. We have to become wealthy, because we look at wealth only through money. Generally, we don't look at it as abundance in other ways. I would certainly rather be spiritually abundant than financially abundant.
Can I
And
say something about that part? Is
sure,
that you would much rather be spiritually abundant than financially abundant. And I think that's where we all need to be in order to be a match, right, for the abundance that it is that we've always been looking for outside of ourselves. And that is a whole different way of living and being, where in the old world we would go out and we would look for it and we would work for it and we would have to earn it and all in that way. And I think that in this new way of living and being, it is the one who feels and knows that you are spiritually abundant. I too feel that I am richer than the richest in that sense, and knowing that I can take that with me. And knowing, because I've been contemplating this, knowing I can take this with me, where it's a spiritual wealth that is so rich and so abundant, so true, that I can take with me, and no one can take that away from me.
and that is the only thing we can take with us. I mean, that is the essence of understanding about
Consciousness.
the difference between life and death. There really is no death. What we do if we choose to die out of our bodies rather than ascending, which most people have done historically, and many people are yet doing it today, people joke around about, you can't take the money with you. You can't take the wealth with you. The only thing we can take, exactly as Pia just said, is we take the consciousness with us.
And
Yeah.
there's a big mistake that a lot of people make. A lot of people misequate consciousness with education. They think that if they know more, have more degrees, more things that they can stack up and say, look how much training I've had, look how much I've studied, look how much I know, look at my experience. It doesn't matter what it is. They think that those things create consciousness, and that is absolutely not true. Consciousness comes directly from the heart, and the association from your heart to source, and being able, as Cullen said, to look around, think, see, feel, listen, know what's going on around you, and then make a conscious choice of how to interact with your environment and with others. It's not about being trained to be a certain way. It's not about aligning yourself with a certain agenda that you want to promote. It's not about any of those platforms. It's purely about what lives in your heart. And that is what we take with us when we are in multidimensionality instead of just 3D.
Yeah. And this is the way with how we are living now, with how we are building our new earth in this new way of realization of beings that know the value of who they are, and they have done that amazing work, and they have that self-realization, they have that practice of moment to moment to moment, making those choices based on their truth, their truth, and what's valuable to them. And again, seeing the world in ways of beauty and abundance and love and connection and honesty and those values that are important to us.
Absolutely. One thing we didn't talk about answering your question about self-realization is there are several components that I think have to be understood in order to understand ourselves. And I think there are 3 or 4 of them. I think I can pull up 3 right now. Kindness, compassion, and empathy. Mm-hmm. If we utilize those particular ways of dealing, first of all, with ourselves, and then outwardly towards others, if we use those elements, that will help build our own self-realization that if we're beaming out, if we're shining out those 3 elements of kindness, empathy, and all the things that do come from the heart, if we treat ourselves like that and we treat everyone else, regardless of whether it's another human being, an animal, a tree, a rock, a river, the ocean, if we utilize those techniques or those tools, that will bring us more closely into realizing who our true absolute essence is, because that's what we came here with. We came with all of those abilities, all of those tools. And unfortunately, the socialization process, starting in our families, especially in school, by the time these little bright beings enroll in school, by the time they're in 4th or 5th grade, most of those elements are pretty much beaten out of them. And I know that's a harsh term, but basically we're told that no, maybe you shouldn't act like that. Maybe that's selfish. Maybe that's not really the way to be. You need to be more aggressive. You need to be more competitive. You need to be more pushy. You need to get ahead. And I think we lose those 3 elements that I listed. And I think part of our job at this point is to recapture those ways of being, and not only for ourselves and our own self-love, but in broadcasting that out to everyone else, every other energy. That, I think, is part of the package of self-realization.
It's beautiful. I think even with this Venus energy that we're in right now, and this self-love and all of the ways that we communicate, like you just said, with kindness and empathy and compassion, how we treat ourselves is how we treat other people. And to make that a foundation, that is the law, that is the rule, that is the way that we live and act here in this way, right? And to make that as to practice that even more and extend that even more. So this is a wonderful way that we can work with these energies right now.
There have been people around the world creating schools over the past, I don't know, 50, 60 years that have been attempts to create what we're talking about. Krishnamurti started a series of schools in England and in America, and Sai Baba in India also did this, where they created schools that fostered these ideas, these elements we're talking about and sharing about right now. They were teaching these kinds of understandings about how to be a real human being, how to be kind, how to be thoughtful, how to be generous. And I wish that these schools, I have visited some of them over the years, and I really wish that those schools had taken off and become the norm around the world, because they would have absolutely changed the world. There are lots of different types of schools. The Montessori system, the Waldorf system from Rudolf Steiner, they've done a good job in trying to get children to be more holistic and more of their true selves. But I think the schools that J. Krishnamurti started and that Sai Baba started were totally advanced from those other systems. And the children that come out of these systems they're so far ahead in their thinking about the big picture, the really big understanding of what life is all about, why we're here, how we can individually make it a better place.
Well, I think with everything that's changing, with all the systems that need to change, with the word that Pia used earlier, transmutation, all the things that need to change, the educational system is one of them. And so hopefully that will also be part of our new earth, that our educational system will then be more truer to our human nature and what it is that we need in today's modern world to provide for these children that are, our future leaders, that are, yeah. So hopefully that will all change, as long, right alongside the political system, the financial system, all the systems, the medical system, all the systems that need to change. The educational system is a huge part of that. I've thought about this often, that if I was a young mother right now, what would I do? What would I do? And hands down, I would find a way to homeschool, that I would be doing that. I wouldn't be sending my kid to a regular school.
I think that's a really good way of helping our children. When I was in school, I really didn't fit. I mean, I've talked about this before, but I learned more at home from my parents than I did in school. We had roundtable discussions at dinner every night about things that were important in the world, justice, how to improve the world, how to do things differently. And I often thought in junior high, middle school, and high school that I was just sort of spinning my wheels in school, because I realized that my parents were actually teaching me more than I ever got in school. And when it came time to go to college, which in my timing, in my life, everybody was supposed to go to college. I told my parents I didn't want to go to college. And they said, well, in our family, everybody goes to college. And most of us all go to graduate school after we go to college. And I said, yeah, well, that's great, but I don't really want to do that. And I almost did not go to university. And my dad made a pact with me. He said, look, just go get your first degree. And I said, well, I'd rather travel, or I'd rather learn a skill. I'd rather go to Europe and be part of a guild, learn carpentry or jewelry making or stained glass production or something. And he said, yeah, maybe you could do that later. But he said, just go to school. And he said, here's what I will bet you. I'll bet you if you spend 4 years in school, at least you will come out with a better vocabulary. And I had to laugh. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. And indeed, he was right. I did increase my vocabulary by going to the university I went to. But looking back, I spent way too many years in higher education. I certainly could have been doing other things, but I got caught in that wheel of more. And looking at it today, I probably would have been wiser to learn other things than what I probably got in my university experiences.
It's so interesting to listen to this. How you said you didn't feel that you fit in. I felt the same way in my upbringing, even though I was raised by a single mother, no parents at home, just one single mother who basically was the masculine energy, had to go to work to bring the money home to take care of the children. So she was never there. So I was there. I was the one that was there getting the emotional, taking care of the household and all of those things, putting my own emotional needs aside while I'm helping to take care of the household and be there for my mother as she was acting like the man and bringing home the bacon, right? And so I never could concentrate in school because I was always preoccupied with taking care of the house and what needs to happen at home. So that's where my energy was. And I was never really fully present. And looking back at it now, what a blessing, right? What a blessing to not, but for a long time, I used to also feel like, I didn't fit in because I always felt weird, because I didn't come from a two-parent household, and there was so much dysfunction and chaoticness in my childhood that I always felt weird and different. Not until later did I realize that, we weren't born to fit in. We were born to create the new.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
That's why we were born. We were born to create the new and not fit in. Fit
Yep.
into a mold, fit into a box, fit into a system. We were born to be as curious as you were and, go on those self-exploration journeys to see what it means for us.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that troubled me about school the most was the increased influence of history. Every single year we had to study some sort of history. And I was like, why? That's done. That's not now. I could not stand history. It completely bored me.
Yeah.
It's not it's not the now moment.
Yeah.
I
I think,
still like
teaching children how to be humans, about emotion and anger and, about their belief system and about their creativity and their intuition, all those things, those are life skills, right? Because we're still to this day helping those parents, get those qualities to really learn those skills on how to be emotionally responsible with your energy and not how to create more chaos or more war or more harm, like you've taught over the years and decades with your teachings of the ahimsa, and that is do no harm. And that teaching that to the children.
It would make such a difference. It would make such a big difference helping mold children in a different way. Do you know, I'm sure you know this, do you know about the educational system, the alternative educational system in Russia that is called the Anastasia system, where kids help create everything about the school that they're involved with. They help create the actual buildings. The children show the parents and the teachers what the building should look like, how to build a space that's more conducive to life, not square rectilinear walls, but maybe round walls, maybe different kinds of windows or different kinds of skylights. The children in this system, they're not allowed. They're what would you say, Pia? They're encouraged to participate from the very, very beginning. They are asked, what do you want to learn? How do you want the curriculum to be set up so that we can bring to you things you're curious about, things you want to know about, instead of what we're talking about history classes or math that no one's ever going to use. It's not going to help balance their checkbooks, the kind of math that's taught in schools. And this system in Russia has turned out these children who are better leaders.
Totally.
They're more creative. They're more involved in envisioning and creating a better world. And I wish that system would also grow and move around the world, because it changed the communities that these schools are designed in.
Well, they're more empowered. You know, when you're asking, when you're including them in the creation of it, and you're asking them, what do you want? What do you want to put into it? Instead of telling them this is how it is, and this, you need to come in here for this hour, and you need to learn this, and you need to do this, but you're including them with asking them to participate in the creation of it, which is empowering. Like, they matter, they have meaning right away. They're being built up. They're being built up instead of spoken down to.
It changes the whole atmosphere. Do you remember the movie that Michael Moore made? Gosh, it must have been about 8 years ago. It was called Where Should We Invade Next? And it was this incredible movie where he went around the world to different governments, different countries, and it was a spoof. I mean, it was a funny documentary movie, but he went to these different countries and learned how they did things different than the American system. And one of the segments was about the school system in one of the Scandinavian countries. And I don't remember right now if it was Norway or Denmark. It wasn't Switzerland, and I don't think it was Finland.
You
But
mean Sweden, not Switzerland.
yeah, I mean Sweden, thanks. Anyway, so he sat in on classes and he videoed what was going on between the teachers and the students. And it wasn't teachers standing at the front of the room or sitting behind their desk lecturing. The teachers were walking around and talking and touching the students and really bringing out a communication that does not happen in America. And then he was in a teacher's lounge just talking to the teachers about their system. And the things the teachers were talking about were just amazing, about the fact that they listen to their students. They listen to, what do you want to know? What do you want to learn? And then the next segment was, he was back in a classroom with all these kids just eagerly talking and smiling because they wanted to share with him. And he said, well, what about homework? And they said, we don't have homework. We don't do school when we're not in school. When we're at home, we play. We do fun things. We don't ever have homework assigned to us. And then he said, well, how many days a week do you go to school and how many hours? And they said, well, that depends. That depends on what we're studying. And we don't go to school all day long like you do in America. We don't go to school at 8 o'clock in the morning and go all the way till 3 or 4. We don't spend more time than 3 or 4 hours in school on the days we're in school. And sometimes we don't go to school every day during the week. Sometimes we go 3 days a week. Sometimes we go 4 days a week. And Michael Moore was just astonished at this information. He said, but is that enough time for you to learn all you need to learn? And they all just laughed and smiled at him and said, we know a lot. We learned a lot. It was fascinating to watch how different educational systems are even today in the world. And those little kids are way happier than American kids. I guarantee it.
I would have loved to have gone to a school like that. Right? That would be wonderful to have schools like that for our children today.
It would. And I know I talk a lot about myself in our discussions, but here's another point that I have. Because there were too many baby boomers in the early and middle 50s where I went to school, for 2 years, there were too many kids and not enough teachers in the school system I went to. And so for 2 years, school children only had to go half day because there wasn't enough room for everybody. So for 1 year, I only had to go from like 8 o'clock until noon. And then I would go home, and the second group would go from noon until 4. And then the next year it was reversed. I had my mornings off and I would go from noon until 4, the opposite of what I did the first year. And that was a great experience because guess what? I had more time to play. I had more time to have fun. I had more time to be in nature. If I was not at school all day long, I could be in, on, or under the ocean. I could be riding my bike. I could be doing things that weren't school oriented. And those 2 years for me were a great freedom.
And obviously still brings you great joy even talking about it, that great experiences that you had. And when it relates to being in school, I think that sounds fabulous to have all the school children come to school at noon to 4. That sounds great. Go ahead and go play first. I mean, we've never had that before. Play first, then work, then come. And wouldn't that be fun?
It would actually be excellent for teenagers who, when their hormones are changing, have a terrible time getting up in the morning and being at school in the morning and don't wake up to what they're supposed to be learning until after lunch. So if we'd get in alignment with what the kids need and provide what they need, our children would be much better educated.
Well, and we're speaking about our, new earth creation here. We're speaking about the ascension process. Even again, as we're talking about the present moment and being in the now, with all of these higher frequencies that are coming in from, space weather and all the solar flares and the solar flashes and the CMEs and all of those things, we too need more downtime, possibly in the morning, to sleep in and integrate that energy, because I don't know about you, but I certainly have been feeling this level of exhaustion that is beyond what we can previously call exhaustion.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we need to, give ourselves permission to allow ourselves to be more and to find the value in that, and bring our curiosity into play again, right? I think that's another thing we need more of, is play, because we're not putting a lot of focus on that, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
Agreed.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So Pia, what are you guys up to? Are you doing any projects? Are you offering any things that are new, or are you wanting to put focus on what you've already got, the systems that you already have?
We are offering a special solstice meditation where Larkma is going to align with the energies that are present and walk us through how we are moving on this ascension path. So we're offering that on June the 20th at 8 o'clock your time, Pacific time, in the morning to start the day. Although solstice doesn't come for many hours later, we're doing a group meditation so people can get in the spirit and the energy of that. So that will be offered on June 20th. It's on our website, marked on our website. And other than that, we are writing articles and doing personal sessions, both of us, for people with Larkma or with the work that I do on my own. Just continuing the path of what we're guided to do day by day. And it evolves according to what people need.
Exactly. What is it that's exactly, what is it that we need? What is it that we need? And having that question be, what is it that you need on a daily basis that is going to bring you more joy, that's going to bring you more healing, that's going to bring you more connection, that's going to bring you more abundance? What is it that you need? Yeah. So
we have a slight waiting list right now, but we are available and always want to help. So
a slight waiting list, that's a good problem to have. Yeah, it's slight. So that means there's room. There's room.
There's room, but you may not get instant service. It may not be today or this week, but you will get what you need soon.
Yeah, I think the probably the hallmark right now is communication. I think people need to communicate. People need to be heard, and people need to get together and realize that we're all in this together. And I think that's sort of the emphasis of what's going on energetically with humanity on this planet at this time.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I think that's a really a good way to sum this up. I'll just add to this by saying I always love hearing your personal stories, Cullen. So I don't, please keep them coming. Keep them coming. We learn a lot when you share your stories. So there's that. And then not only that, but you are a beautiful expression of the divine masculine in full form. And so I appreciate you for that. And one of the things that's come up for me over this last week is what I'm releasing is not being heard, because I was in certain situations in relationship dynamics where I was just being cut off. Like just I'm speaking and boom, I'm being cut off. And I was like, wow, okay. So, and then it happened again in another dynamic, and it happened again. So then a pattern evolved and showed itself to me that, oh, I'm feeling like I'm being cut off, even though I I wasn't triggered in a sense, but it was a pattern that was revealing itself, showing to me that, yeah, I want to be heard more, and I want to have this space to not be cut off in my communications. So it's really, really important that we look at those patterns that's coming up for us right now in this cycle, and really stand in what it is that what it is that's important to us, right?
I think it's of the utmost importance, because so many of us have been shut down or not believed in or not supported in so many ways. I think you're absolutely right. I think this is the time to communicate in different ways, in healthier, more humane ways than maybe the experiences that many of us have had in the past.
Yeah. So even the parts, those of us that have had those experiences, releasing those energies, letting that go, where we weren't heard, where we were being cut off, where our words didn't matter, where we didn't matter, all that's going into the crystalline river and being released and let go. And so that then we can come back and we can create those heart connections, those spaces where people want to offer each other that space to communicate. Right?
Yes.
So important.
So important. Well, thank you so much, my beautiful friends, for coming on and sharing your gifts with us today. I want to thank the audience for listening and tuning in. When you are listening to this video, please like the video and also subscribe to the channel. And we're going to see you again next month in July. So have a wonderful month. Happy solstice, everyone. And we'll see you again next time. Take good care.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.